Hey, what's up, all you 40k Fanatics? It's me, Casey.
And me, Shane.
Get dunked on.
Man, I got dunked on. Oh, my gosh. So, Casey and I finally played
Get crumped on.
Yeah, so we played round 5 of 6 of the league that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And I misplayed against the Orcs in the worst way.
Boy, did you ever.
So my thinking was I'm playing Chaos Space Marines. It's a 2,000-point game. And I've been experimenting with the idea of getting Abaddon and his 5 Terminators into the fray early.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes he doesn't get into the fight until late, and then the game's kind of gotten out of hand. I've had happen. So this time I thought, well, I'll just barrel him off into your front lines.
And then you got dunked on.
And then I just got completely
Crumped.
100 to 57, I think, was the score.
Yeah, 57, 52, some kind of shit.
Yeah,
like that.
I was glad to get 50.
And you know, and it wasn't it was if I had been just a little bit more of my usual luck, it probably would have been a completely different game. I got a lot of really good rolls, and because we're halfway through our tournament, I swapped a few things around. So instead of using like rockets, used custom Mega Blasters and Flamers, which were pretty decent against your boys.
Yeah, I mean, I just I played really bad. I mean, credit to you for getting the win, you know, because you still had to execute the thing. But losing Abaddon on turn 1 was a disaster.
Yeah, what exactly was that peril that I knocked him down to 1 wound in my like all of my shooting phase and my fight phase? What was the last little pip that took him off? It was like a psychic test, or
Oh, yeah. So that was a failure of a Dark Pact roll.
yes, and I was wondering what that was.
Yeah.
So to my credit, I had about 10 Ludas with so that's 8 Def Guns, 2 custom Mega Blasters, then 20 boys, and also 10, actually 8 knobs because you killed a few. 8 knobs and a war boss in the wall, fully crumped, all power claws, +1s to hit, extra attacks, extra strength, the whole deal. And I got Abaddon. I killed 5 Terminators?
5 Terminators.
And got Abaddon down to 1 wound, and then just the misery.
It was a disaster.
You hit that Dark Pact and he was gone.
Yeah, it was bad news. It was bad news. And then my night continued. I continued to take L's for the rest of the evening.
How so?
A young lady went home with me, and then we got into the whiskey. And you know what? She shouldn't have taken advantage of me like that. I am just as hungover as a person can be. So, as a bit of therapy, we're going to do a paint pod. And
yeah.
If you're only listening, then I encourage you to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, 40k Fanatics on YouTube.
You get to see the models that we have painted. And
yeah, so this is the second time that we've done one of these painting pods where it's kind of like show and tell. And I brought 2 models, and Casey's got one of his orcs, which was victorious yesterday.
Yeah, it lasted a fair amount through the game. I appreciate this model's drive to get my win.
Yeah, but go to the YouTube and check it out because there's actually a visual component to this pod. And also, quite a few people have been listening to the pod, watching the pod on YouTube, which is very exciting. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe.
We have just hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, guys.
Very exciting.
Yes. Golf clap. Golf clap.
Bits box.
Open up that bits box. What was that?
Man, I'm tired. My bits box is drank
bits
too much.
Broken?
Broken bits. That's what I am. I am a whole box of broken bits bundled together in a bandaged bindle.
All right. You want to go and do your bits box, or you want me to
go? Go ahead. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Boy, we got a lot going on. Right now, I am most of the way through this commission for Space Marines. Shane has seen the sea of yellow that is in my painting studio, and it is... How would you describe it, Shane?
Are they Iron Hands? What are they?
You freaking scrub.
I don't.
I can't with you.
I can't even.
They're Imperial Fists.
Oh, the Imperial
Fists.
I mean, the Iron
This
Hands.
is why the lore matters,
Fists.
folks. This right here. Anyways, we hit 100 subscribers on YouTube. Space Marine 2 has released a ton of gameplay video, which I am super stoked about. Got to see some Tyranids getting bashed up. And then we had a ton of reveals from Games Workshop, which actually I think that I had a hand in. I love me some Blood Angels, and I've been looking about expanding my Space Marine army from 1,000 points to 2,000 points. And I saw recent people playing, and I was like, I'll buy some of those Firstborn Assault Marines with the jump packs on them, you know. Get like a mob of 10 to 20 of those, run them through, just melee the crap out of people. The next, and I looked at prices. I looked at eBay listings. I looked at everything. And then I went ahead and I looked at myself, and I was like, I want Death Company too, which are crazy expensive. Besides the point, next day comes around, and I have almost pulled the trigger on buying like some cheap models. And then Games Workshop reveals a bunch of new jump pack Primaris Space Marines.
And now you got to have them.
I need these things, Shane. I need them. It gets rid of a lot of stuff, but they look so good. And I know Blood Angels players are definitely here for it.
Yeah, I mean, so the Bits box right this second is a bit newsy. And
it is, but I mean, this is the most stuff that's coming on.
So a couple of things that I think are big news is we're recording this on Wednesday.
Yes.
Tomorrow there's a Balance Data slate coming out.
Oh yeah.
Which we will talk about next week with whatever changes.
Yes, next week is a gameplay.
Yeah,
hobby.
Because who knows? It may just be points again, which would be interesting. But I imagine they're gonna pretty heavily adjust some stuff.
It is rumored that Death Guard and Votann are getting some stuff.
Well, they need it. I mean,
they do.
The Votann guys just need to hit on threes.
Fair.
It's easy.
Fair.
They need to be like, my bad, y'all hit on threes, and keep it moving. I mean, they should have put that out in a tweet. Yeah. I feel like. Also, the Tyranid Codex.
Ooh, yes, big name drop.
Yeah, the Tyranid Codex is either out or is available for pre-order. It's as good as out to me because I subscribe to the Tabletop Tactics people, and shout out to them. Shout
out to Play on Tabletop too; they got it as well.
Yeah, well, all the big content creators got one. For some reason, we didn't get one.
Well, yeah, like what are we? Come on.
Small time.
Recognize.
We're small time, man.
We're not small time. What
small
are you talking
time.
About? We're in rural Arkansas. Let's go.
100 subscribers.
100 subscribers.
But someday, especially if you guys keep on liking and subscribing and sharing and whatnot. Anyway, it's an interesting book in that what I really like about it is you keep the army rules that you already have from the index. So that doesn't change. If they continue,
which is really interesting.
Yeah, if they continue to do this sort of format for everything, then you can keep on playing exactly what you're playing if you like what you're doing. Okay,
yeah, and buy the codexes for the lore because you are definitely not the way they've been doing it. Buy the codexes for the lore because you are not going to be using it for the points. Ouch. In past, they have updated so much; those things are pretty much useless.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're going to be more useful this time because what you're getting is your index rules and then 5 other detachments. And they're laid out exactly like your index rules, where you have a sheet of 5 stratagems.
Huh.
And you've got like a detachment rule.
We like stratagems.
Well, right. and we like them being just those 5. So. Yeah. If you're playing a detachment out of the new book, that doesn't mean there's 5 times 5 or 5 times 6 now.
Not as
stratagems.
Much memorization going on.
Right. The detachments you pick, you then get those 5 stratagems that go with it.
Yes.
And the way they work in the Tyranid Codex is they're set up so that you can kind of build what you want and then get some synergies in your detachment rule for the kind of thing that you want. So there's one that's...
Are we turning this painting pod into a gameplay
No,
pod?
man. I mean, what are we doing? What are we, 10 minutes in here?
We're in the bits box,
I
sir.
know. We're in the bits box and we're covering stuff.
Yeah.
But if you want to do monsters, they've got a whole detachment for monsters. If you want to do swarms of stuff, they've got a detachment for swarms.
Want you, Tyranids. Let's go.
Yeah, it's going to be neat. It's going to be neat when, I can imagine that the Chaos Space Marines, they'll have something for Vashtor and all the
hopefully
and all the demon engines, and then they'll have something for a bunch of troops, and they'll have something for Hero Hammer. I'm sure, if you want to take all the characters like I do.
Oh, I love characters,
and I think that's going to be great. But then also, if you don't feel like learning anything quick on the fly, or maybe you don't want to buy anything, then you can just keep using your regular index rules, because at least with the one example we've got, that's still an option, which is just great.
And I've got one last thing for my bits box, and that was pretty dope, by the way. Thank you, Shane, for all your insider knowledge, because even though he was crumped last night, he's still our game master.
Man.
I played 2K against Gene Stealer Cult. 2K Orcs versus 2K Gene Stealer, and it was close. 61-83. Got a little smashed, not going to lie. GSC are extremely mobile, and that demolition charge wiped my war boss and all 10 knobs in one shot. Go!
Yeah, no, that'll do it to you.
Ugh.
That's all I've got from my bits box.
What?
I think.
Nothing else?
I don't know.
Didn't you play a game for like Friday?
I don't know. I've played like 4 or 5 games. I've played a couple of 1,000-point games recently, which were fun. I got to do the Servo Skull one where you move the points around. That was a lot of fun.
I like was it Scourge Demolish, the one where you get rid of the point.
Oh, the Scorched Earth one where you light it on fire at some point.
But I think I like the one we played more.
Yeah, we played the Purge the Foe where you get points for killing stuff, which worked well for you.
It really did.
Yeah, I think that's it. Bunch of games, and the main part of my hobbying we will discuss now.
Closing the bits box.
So, on screen now, if you're watching the YouTube, there will be in lovely HD rotating before you a model. And what the heck is this? Casey's just handed it to me so that I can look and comment.
That is my Knob with Wah banner. The Knob with the Wah banner is a character that you can buy off of the Games Workshop store. I bought him in, I think, early to mid 9th edition because I thought he looked cool. First off, so rule of cool. I looked at a couple of his rules, and he wasn't too much of a slouch. Gave extra attacks. I think he also gave like +1 to hit with choppas. So you put him in a mob of boys, and they hit like a lot of hits. But I run him now in 10th primarily because he gives this awesome ability, which is he can activate his Wah banner for a turn, giving the Wah to the unit he's attached to. So that's +1 strength and attack, 5 up invuln save, and an advance in charge.
And that's outside of your Wah turn.
Yeah, you can do it outside.
You get a unit ends up with an extra Wah.
Yeah,
turn.
so running him with like a big mob of boys is super helpful. It makes them last a lot longer than they're used to.
Yeah.
That is actually resin.
Okay.
Did you notice?
No.
Oh man, I actually sliced my hand open, shaving down all of the flash from the resin. No
kidding. I've not had a resin model yet.
It's not my favorite. I now paint wise, that is one of my better painted orcs out of my army. I tend to spend a little bit more time on the characters, but they're still sort of battle ready, compared to parade ready. I use them for experimentation, learning what washes work with what metallics and colors.
Yeah, and this guy's a real wash-heavy job, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
No
highlights.
Yeah, he's from a different era of your painting.
He's from the Grim Darkness.
Yeah, well, because now you're not doing them like this anymore.
No, I'm not. They're more poppy now, more cartoony, a little bit more.
Yeah,
He seemed just his character just seemed a little bit more grungy to me, so I kind of stuck with it.
yeah, and this is going to make for a good contrast between the models that I brought as we discuss this. But
Ooh, it is.
yeah, because this is an example. It's got all that cleanliness that your paint jobs always have. Like everything that is green is where the green is supposed to go, and everything that is yellow is just where the yellow is supposed to go.
Neat.
Yes, it's very neat. However, if you get him down to tabletop,
He just looks like a normal boy.
he just kind of disappears a
He
little bit.
blends in, yeah.
He just blends in.
He
which
does have that problem.
yeah, which is kind of the thing with all of those. Yeah, I don't know if they're old school because people are doing them all the time, but I feel like we're in a spot with Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, where you can see a lot of really good painters all the time.
For sure.
And it's like, this isn't how they're doing it anymore,
Yeah, fair. And we're on there, by the way. Check us out. At Prime Paint Wah is the handle for the Instagram and the TikTok if you guys want to see some stuff on models. And I don't know what you have, Shane. But you can also check out our Twitter as well at 40k Fanatics.
Yeah, we get all the pictures up on there. So this guy's cool. He's
very cool.
You know what I think he's an example of?
What?
I think he is as good as the base coat wash can be.
That's a fair assumption.
Because I think in base coat wash paint jobs, it's neatness that is kind of your only lever to pull.
And you know what? It throws me back to all of those old resin and metal models they used to have where, the details weren't as defined and you could only get them so far with your paint job. And a lot of these newer models have more defined ridges for the highlights and everything, so you can make the shadows really shade and the edges really pop. This one, it just has an older version of the art style that they used to use on those sculpts, and I don't know, it just speaks to me. Maybe one day I'll add some highlights on them, make them look a little bit more flashier, but I think he's, as far as like a year ago, 6 months ago maybe, about probably a year ago, he is what I was at in 2022, peak 2022 KC painting.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. He's neat. Now, I'm going to pass over to you, and we're going to switch the video, and people are going to say, what is this? So I've brought 2 Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures.
He's brought a couple ab-humans.
Yeah, I brought a couple of mutants, and I think I talked about this on the pod in the last Bits box. I wanted something kind of relaxing to paint.
Yes, because you have run out of stuff.
Right, because I've run out of stuff besides a couple of really complicated projects. And
we are nothing but if not efficient here at 40k Fanatics.
Yeah, and so I went out and the idea was I'd get some X-Men and like the cameos and do them up like the cartoon. And as far as relaxing, it has been that. So I'm passing Beast over to Casey, and then we're going to move on to Gambit in a minute.
Really like this model because not only has he done the highlights, he's also done sort of a feathery, somewhat of a glaze on the highlights, and it speaks to me in my nostalgia because I was a big fan of the old 90s X-Men cartoon that used to be on. Is that what you inspired these? Come at us, Disney. Let's go. Pay us money, Disney. Come on.
Please. Don't take it because we don't have any.
So Shane, tell me a bit about your inspiration on this bad boy.
Well, so I've talked about it before in the painting pods about how I'm trying to make my main goal is to try to get my models where when you set them down at gaming distance, they do not do what your wall banner guy does.
Blend.
Yeah, I want
these guys pop.
Yeah, I want them to pop. And if you're watching on YouTube, as they circle around, you'll see there's a lot of white lining and a lot of heavy duty, just as loud as you can get at highlight stuff. There, it's almost like clown makeup, if you will.
Yeah, and it really boosts those edges when you're looking from a distance, and you're like, oh dang, that's Beast from X-Men way over there.
Yeah, and I think it does a couple of things where, I mean, it is not subtle, and it does not hold up to very, very close scrutiny.
And you can accomplish something similar to this with dry brushing, which Shane's art style really flows in very hard contrast, not only to show off those edges, but to really boost the shades in the shadows so that you can definitely tell, the muscularity or the ridges or hey, this is where the light's hitting it, and you pull that off very well.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing was like, it's a big blue fuzzy guy.
Yeah.
So
he might blob.
Yeah, he could very easily blob, and in fact, I got him 90% to where you see him, and then
like the black pants. Like the black pants, you would think, you
Right.
can't see the details on it, but because of your hard contrast and the subtleness of your mid-tone, you really pulled off the edge. Like his cheeks are killer.
Yeah. But the thing is, I went back with white and glazed straight white onto a lot of spots of him, and that's what made him
Really?
pop as much as the other ones, because the other ones, they're wearing costumes and things, and there's some more edges to them. There's some different colors that made them pop a little more easily,
Yeah.
which is why I brought Gambit, which we may talk about, and then I have one other point besides the sort of loudness.
Yeah, and I'm excited for this one. This one looks really going for glow effects and not using airbrush is a huge achievement if you can pull it off.
Yeah, and his little magic thing that's happening off his cards, like that was kind of I kind of just did a wet blend sort of thing, but it I don't feel like it turned out. But then I went back through again with straight white and just went all over the place with it so that it would have some dark and light and some purplish, and I think that worked. But the parts that I really like about him are like his abs and stuff.
That is something that really stands out to me once I get him really close. It really shows it off.
So there's been development here, and this is the second part that I want to talk about. Besides my trying to take these big contrast swings and making them, somewhat gaudy, so that they end up looking more like something on the tabletop. The other thing that I've noticed is how in painting them, because there's a straightforwardness to these X-Men models. And there's also like this loudness going on because they're cartoon characters that I haven't had a lot of experience with painting 40k stuff. Because 40k stuff, like, everyone's literally wearing a uniform, so you sort of...
Same.
Yeah, you kind of don't change your methodology very much from model to model. Whereas these guys... Yeah, whereas these guys, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do a big yellow suit, and I'm gonna do a big blue suit, and I'm gonna do blue fur, and then I'm gonna do a brown jacket. And you just get to do these wildly different things, and then the first port of call for me personally is make it loud. So that's been fun, but also I found that there have been breakthroughs. And breakthroughs are funny in anything, because I don't think that breakthroughs in painting or in anything that one is practicing or studying are very often intentional.
Fair.
But I'm doing all this white lining, right? And sometimes it's an edge highlight where I'm using the side of the brush, and then sometimes it's actually having to get in there and steer it, with the tip. And then but I'm doing these white highlights, and I'm doing these volumes, little oblong things across the top of the muscles where the light hits, right?
Yeah.
And I'm finding my brush control is getting better. And then I'm doing Beast, and I'm going back through to punch him up, right? With the straight white. And I'm doing my big, circles, you could call them, shapes.
For the muscles.
And then I get to his chest, and this model does not have a whole lot of molded in detail. So I get to his chest, and I'm like, I kind of want this to look like fuzzy fur.
Yeah, and then that's where you did like
And
a little bit
so
of feathering,
and
right?
so I just go in there with my brush and I start just doing white lines, tiny little lines until they become fur. And I was like, well, that wasn't there a week ago.
Oh yeah, it's
You know what I mean?
progression in your painting is so interesting because you'll try new things and then you'll find that it works, or it's something that you really, really like are like, wow, that looks really good.
Well, it was the part that I was surprised with is that, like, you see great painters talk about, oh yeah, and then to shade this, I just used a bunch of tiny little lines, and it's like, what? Because in the past, my tiny little line or my big stupid line, there was no telling which one was going to come out from brushstroke to brushstroke.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm going in and doing just the tops of Gambit's abs and not missing. And then I go to, I did Black Cat because I got Spider-Man too. And she's in her black cat suit. She's got white fur on it. And then that's it. Well, obviously you can't just paint her black and call it a day.
Yeah.
Because, there is no more disappear into the tabletop than that.
Oh yeah, because you won't notice what it looks like from a distance, or you'll just see like the points that are painted. Besides that, it's like
She's got nothing.
Yeah, like a green screen effect.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like a floating head.
Right. It'd be pitiful. And so, and also when you're doing Black Cat, if maybe I should have brought her since I'm talking about her, but she's like flipped over backwards.
What?
Yeah, it's male designed model for sure.
Oh gosh.
So
All the neck beards.
yeah, and I'm not better than anybody, so I'm getting in there and
You got a neck beard.
yeah, so I'm getting in there and I'm doing a highlight pass on the TNA, and I'm going down like the top of her thigh, right?
Easy.
And I've done
Easy.
I know, and I've done all the other shading as like blocks the way that I've done it. And then for some reason I was like, oh, I wonder, because this shine on her cat suit is a little more subtle, and you guys can see this one on Twitter.
Yes.
On the at 40k Fanatics on Twitter.
We share all of the photos that we take of our models on Twitter.
But I just started doing lines. Squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. Yeah.
Yeah, lines.
If we were monetized, which we are not.
We didn't say anything that technically we didn't say anything.
So I did all these white lines. Small ones,
Trying to keep it together over there.
short ones, long ones, thick ones, thin ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them on glass.
Shut up. Okay. Oh, and it worked. It worked.
And it turned out, but I had never done it before, and it wasn't like the breakthrough didn't happen like, okay, and now I'm going to attempt to whatever.
Yeah.
It was just, I think, it was like
Epiphany.
Well, yeah, it was like you're driving, and
It's like, oh,
it'll fit through there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my only critique about this, and it's actually not even your fault, the eyes. So Shane has tried to paint the eyes, and he actually did a bang-up job. But due to, like you said, the lack of detail on this model, you actually don't even have eyes to paint on. It's just like it's barely even a crater.
So here's the thing.
What is the thing?
I need another breakthrough to happen, and it needs to be on faces because I can't do anything with them.
Get yourself a bunch of guardsmen.
Oh my gosh, I need to do something right. Especially these Marvel faces, they're very like human shaped.
Big chin.
Yeah, but
charismatic.
Yeah, but they're not as cartoony looking as 40k faces.
Fair.
40k faces give you relatively a lot of room to work with.
Fair.
So I tend to kind of be able to get those done, and these are much more pretty, and it's a lot less to work with. And I did not paint those eyes.
Oh, okay.
What I did is didn't paint my primer.
No. Okay.
Ha, right?
So you just painted around it.
I just painted around it.
That's funny. Just 2 black dots.
Well, because he's got black eyes anyway.
It looks good. Yeah, that's my only critique. I really like what you've done with the cards and the energy swipe, I guess is what he has. The contrast between the purple and the white really makes it pop, like it's caught by the like its energy caught by the light. The purple is really dark and almost black, so you have to really get up close to tell that it's purple a bit. But other than that, well done, sir. I believe this is a 9 out of 10 model. Beast is a 10 out of 10.
Oh yeah, you like him better.
Yeah, dude, I've been saying it since you brought him over. He's 10 out of 10. He's awesome.
Yeah, I think
the feathering.
I think that one may be my favorite.
There's only one flaw on Beast.
What's that?
What do you think I'm going to say?
Oh, I have no idea.
There's no writing on the book he's reading.
Oh, no.
He's reading a blank book.
He's reading a blank book. Well, you see, the X-Men are very secretive, and the mutants are.
That's why he's wearing goggles. They're like,
yeah. It's invisible ink, and he's got his glasses on so that he can read it.
That's great.
Yeah, no. There are plenty of big words in that book. Big, complicated words.
He's a scientist after all. Oh man! So yeah, I think yours overall 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
9.5 out of 10.
And I wanted to share. I wanted to share these
together
with the people because I think sometimes a palate cleanser
yes
is good, and I also think that whatever level of painter you're at, if you go and paint something easy, like that's right in your pocket.
Yeah.
I think that's the place where gains can be made. Not necessarily always from, I'm going to paint something new and difficult, but going out and really dunking on something that is
out of your
familiar.
wheelhouse.
Well, yeah, out of, but also totally within your capabilities. Does that make sense?
I do palette cleansers all the time. You can see them on the shelf over here, and I have so many things that are just of different. I've got Orcs over here, Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines. I've got an Imperial Guard guy. I've got a Necron, and I just buy them like super cheap, trash models that people either throw out or like one-offs that are super cheap. Paint them up, try out different paint models, and I get it done all in maybe like a day, and it lets me test and see what really works.
Yeah, and for an idea on time on these MCP models, I'm doing 2 at a time usually because
they come in like 2s.
Yeah, well, they come in pairs, and then also I'm finding as I'm using more and more processes that some stuff you just have to do and then let it sit and dry before you can do the next thing, and so it's handy to have a second one to go to.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can do that all the time with stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, like painting Chaos Space Marines, you never have to wait on anything.
And the good point is my knob with a wah banner. I mean, if you look at that thing, you don't know how much effort that I put into it. You see that it's a very well painted model, but the stuff that I sliced my hand open because I'd never painted resin before. I had to trim off all the flash. My hobby knife slipped and cut my hand. And not only that, but once I got all the pieces together, I went to go bathe them because you are supposed to bathe resin models because they have for those who don't know, resin models have residue on them called mold release. And it is so they pour the resin into this mold. The mold release keeps it from sticking to the mold itself, and then they just pull it out and it's done. They don't wash it off, and then they sell it, and you have to wash it off.
Right, because it's also paint release.
I dropped the head for that thing into my garbage disposal, and I did not find it for hours.
Wow.
I was livid.
Did you have to disassemble the disposal?
I had to reach in there. I was like, where the heck is this head? It wasn't next to the sink. It wasn't in the bucket that I was washing them in. Turns out that the strainer had moved or something, and the head had fallen into the disposal. I'm glad it didn't get turned on.
Golly.
Yeah. because resin models suck. I mean, they're great. They're good. There's some flexibility. There's some love there. You can do a lot of creative things with resin models. Don't get me wrong, but man, the work is baffling.
Yeah, I haven't messed with one yet. I'm sure my day will come. Yeah, so a pair of these X-Men are taking me 4 hours, roughly.
Okay, which ones are those? Those ones that you've painted, or just two more?
Just any of them.
Okay.
So I've pretty well painted two at a time, every time, and
Got it down to a flow now.
well, they're all totally different, but it's taken me about 4 hours in one sitting to paint them from primed. Well, usually I'll prime them and then just start, but well, it depends on the primer color. Like if I have to go white, then they kind of have to wait overnight because you got to
Right.
get the white on so heavy. Anyway, I digress. So, a couple of things that I want to try to give out for tips is, like I always say, try to paint faster, because
Oh yeah,
painting faster doesn't necessarily mean you will be worse.
it won't. And if anything, you could just clean up that model later, strip it, and then repaint it.
Well, and the other thing too is I'm going for this very cartoony, very loud,
Comic book style.
yeah, comic book style, but also you could say that I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that see that, especially up close the way it is on the video.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, "Oh, that's terrible. Why
I
why
think it's
are they
nice.
so why are they splotchy, that kind of thing."
Fair.
And
Fair.
that
Yeah.
and that's fine.
That's
because-
their thing.
Yeah, but also they're meant to be that way.
Yeah.
Like
It's not that it's bad. It's just painted different.
yeah, and different is good because I think
Helps you grow.
Yeah, I think your orc with the war banner or with the Wah banner. I'm sorry, the Wah banner.
The Wah banner.
Casey just struck me, which he has the right to do now because
You got crumped. You
I got crumped yesterday. But this is a good contrast where yours is very, very, very neat, and it gives a result of a type, and mine are intentionally not very neat, and they give a completely different result.
Total contrasts.
Total contrast, and the time on both of them is possibly similar. I know. If you went to do that orc with the Wah banner now, it would take you 2.5, 3 hours at the most.
Oh yeah, like it was just mostly base coats and then shades on top of it. Hardly any highlighting at all, really.
Yeah, and I bring up the time thing, and I want to let people in on how long it takes me and you to paint stuff, because I know some people get out here and work on a model for 2 weeks.
Fastest hands in the West, guys.
Man, I mean, and look, speed is not everything, but it is a factor, that I hear a lot of people say, man,
Yes.
if I just had time to paint,
And-
I paint so slow, da-da-da.
Something
It's like,
you ought to try is put down a timer. When we went to that the NEA Gamers Fest, what was it, last month? 2 months ago? When we went to the NEA Gamers Fest, I took part in a speed painting challenge to try to do some stuff, and I've spoke about it before, but they set up a 30-minute timer. So I was trying to paint as fast as I possibly could and as effective as I possibly could. And I was like, man, I'm almost done, and this thing looks okay, I guess. And then they're like, 10 minutes has elapsed. And I was shocked at how well I had done in a fraction of what I had expected.
yeah, and as far as time, when I'm sitting and painting these things, I'm listening to some podcasts, but I'm
Fair.
not in any hurry.
Listening to 40k Fanatics. Check it out, guys.
Just listening to myself on repeat constantly.
Man, I gotta listen to you. I don't think I'd be fine with that. No, but for real, I listened to us the other day, and my wife came in because I was cooking dinner, and I had the Alexa going, and she was like, "Are you listening to yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it's a quality control.
This
Listen.
guy has good content. What are you talking about?
The best podcast I've ever heard. Yeah, so I want to encourage people to do a little palette cleanser here and
Yes.
there. And here's another thing. A palette cleanser.
One more thing.
Yeah, a palette cleanser is not buy a whole different 40k army and paint that entire thing.
It is not. It is go buy a magazine with a $15 2 models in it.
Go get one of something. Go get you a character from a faction you don't run, for instance. Do not go and say, for my palette cleanser, I'm going to do a whole Necron army.
Yeah. Go on.
Because here's what's going to happen.
Burnout.
The whole reason for the palette cleansing is to try something wild. And then keep what's good and throw away what's bad, right?
Yeah.
So like I've learned that I can now shade in a whole new way or do hair and things like that, right? I can edge highlight better than I ever could before. So that's the good stuff. The bad stuff is I can't do faces, right? Man, imagine if I had just gone out and got a bunch of Valdari or something and I had a whole bunch of faces to do, elf faces. It would be a disaster and a slog. Yeah. And then also, as I got incrementally better toward the back half of the army, then what about these guys on the front end that look like junk in the face? Do you see?
Yeah, and like most people have trouble doing skins and faces that they're like out of their wheelhouse. Like I actually this last year spent time out of my way to paint black skin. Like that, and that is black as in the African American black, by the way, people. Because we're PC here over at 40k Fanatics.
Man, let me tell you. So I got Storm too.
Yeah, and people are coming at me like, man, I don't know how to paint black skin. Can you do it?
It's so different.
It is very different.
I didn't bring her, but I did do. I've painted Storm, and I did her in her white, which turned out great. And so she's in white and gold like on the cartoon. And then I got to the face and the skin.
She looks good. She
looks okay. But, I mean, my entire goal was to just paint this black woman in a way that I don't get disinvited to the cookout. You know? Because it's so drastically different.
It is because it's
the light interacts with black skin differently than it does us too.
So, like maybe if you want to practice skin tones or faces, go on eBay, ask your local hobby shop, go talk to your buddies, and be like, "Hey, do you have any heads that I could paint? Any spare bits of skin? You know, anything that I could just really go into? I got tons of Space Marine heads that I've kept from over the years, and just prime them. Try your best. You know." Give it a shot.
Yeah, it's all about trying stuff
and accomplishing.
And and trying it and finishing it, which I harp on a lot here when we talk about painting, is finish some stuff. Finish it whether it's good or bad, or neat or not. Because I think that we concentrate too much on neat.
Yeah.
Neat is a little bit overrated. Because at 5 feet across the table, I mean, my eyes are pretty good, but neat gets a little lost.
Yeah. I like neat.
Neat's good if you can do neat. I mean,
you can do it,
I mean,
that was actually something that the painting competition at the NEA, one of the judges actually stopped me and said, "Dude, I looked everywhere on your model and I could not find one single spot that was not painted or good."
Yeah.
So, but that's been us.
Yeah. So a little bit of Marvel invading the 40k Fanatics.
I'm going to call them abhumans. Like Ogren or Rattlings, you know, or maybe Astropaths. That's what they are in the 40k universe, abhumans.
Okay, so you're saying that we can proxy Beast for an Ogren?
Yeah, go for it. That'd be awesome.
I mean, that would look good, wouldn't it?
Just call him a bonehead because he's smart. but yeah, so that's us for the day. I've been Casey, your local lore master,
and I'm Shane. Hung over as I can be, and a loser face. Next week, we're going to talk about the balanced data slate, and maybe some more about the Tyranid Codex and stuff.
Psyched for all that stuff.
Yeah. In the meantime, you guys be sure to share the podcast. Check it out on YouTube for the for some looks at the models we talked about today, and go ahead and subscribe while you're there. You can listen to the podcast there. We've got the entire backlog up now on YouTube. And
Apple Podcasts,
Spotify,
Amazon,
everywhere.
And that's it.
That's it.
See you guys. Get crunked, you gets.